massively miscalculated the time I had last time, so I kind of had to cut the whole thing short. But yeah, the general idea I was going with was basically, hey, I am back from being absent for about a month. So yeah, this is what streaming from the YouTube app looks like. I have absolutely no control over the bitrate. I only have access to one camera. I have even less of an access to just like the basic like description for this piece of content. I, for example, cannot even choose the what's the name for you, like category, like entertainment, music, gaming, whatever. So yeah, fun times. YouTube just, I assume YouTube automatically decides that since you're streaming from your phone, it's just like Instagram slop. You know, you're basically just somebody sitting in front of a ring light, looking pretty, and whatever, making kawaii noises. That's pretty much all this app is designed for, I suppose. Funny, actually, I've already re-added the whole entry about those games to memory list, believe it or not, but the first one was on the memory list at one point. And I kind of took it down, I think, before the list even went live for the first time. And it's the the Tomb Raider, the Trauma series, the Trauma franchise. And the reason was because I just thought, okay, you know what? Those games are pretty sloppy. Those are slop games, like objectively. So maybe it's just a bit of a, like the first one. I did enjoy the first one, but I kind of thought about it a bit better and decided that maybe it was a bit of a guilty pleasure type of situation. It's like, how there are people who legitimately enjoy an odd, like, Assassin's Creed game. Like, remember when Assassin's Creed 4 came out and everyone was just like saying that, oh, this is the first actually good one. But like then you play it and it's, yeah, there are some fun mechanics for about 20 minutes, and then they copy and pasted every single one of those, like, moderately fun things to do, literally 200 times. Like the bloat of a Ubisoft map at that point was at its peak. There was literally dozens and dozens of hours of the same little 5-minute thing to do in every single game Ubisoft was publishing at that point. And it's like, dude, you cannot honestly tell me that this is like a good video game. This is just as bad as 3. Like, nobody liked 3. Everyone said 3 was boring, because it was. Oh, but 4, 4 is so much better though. Bitch, have you tried playing a story mission in Assassin's Creed 4? Okay. So, I, long ago on PlayStation 3, I was actually the only one out of my entire friend circle who played like the 2003 Trauma reboot of the Tomb Raider series. And I moderately enjoyed it. It was a bit of a janky game. There's probably a better term for it, but I don't really have time to think about shit like that particularly deeply. Because it is ultimately a slop game. It is a game that was made with cynicism. It was a game that was made with like cynical corporate, let's make a product type of, attitude, rather than let's make a piece of art that matters. And the way you can tell is just the game so blatantly like rips off Uncharted. It's not even funny, right? Like you don't have games by the same developer, like I don't know. Eidos Montreal is such an inconsistent developer. It's actually funny. They've made so they made Thief 4 at one point, and Thief 4 is just absolute trash. It's in first person, it's a stealth game, and somehow it has none of the immersive sim mechanics at all, either from the previous Thief games or, you know, their own previous like Deus Ex game. Playing that, like, you look at a game and you think, oh wow, it's an immersive sim, and like, no, it's not. And then their last two games was just like the Marvel slop stuff, so that's fun. And then there was obviously the Mankind Divided that they never bothered to finish. I mean, you can blame Square Enix for that, I suppose, but you know, whose fault is it in the first place that the company was, you know, bought by Square Enix? And they then, what was their next game? Oh, and in between all that, they released 3 Tomb Raider games. And the interesting thing about those Tomb Raider games, okay, so the way I used to describe the first game was that it had the Tomb Raider DNA in it, and it primarily felt in how jerky the game was. The game was responsive, like much more responsive than even like early Uncharted games, because those games were already a bit sluggish with all of those like complex animations and whatnot, or complex animations, like complex like animation, you know, whatever, transition smoothing system, the procedural animation system of Naughty Dog. Although like those games were still relatively responsive, but the Tomb Raider games have always been very video gamey. Even to the point where even in the Trauma series by Eidos Montreal, you still have in those games air control. You can literally control where you're going while you are in midair. Like, what other modern game even allows for something like that? Definitely not an Assassin's Creed game, right? Actually, no, I don't think in Assassin's Creed you particularly have any degree of air control. I am wondering if you have any air control in the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games. I feel like you might have had a little bit. But anyway, so even the cinematic, you know, dark reimagining of Lara Croft's adventures was still video gaming. The games were very responsive. You even had control in air. You had fucking aerial control in those games. And the platforming, and that applies to all 3 of those games. The platforming actually felt like it was like you were playing a game. You know how, like, when the platforming starts in Uncharted, that's where the video game ends, or pauses rather. In like those Tomb Raider games, no, platforming, you know, puzzles, action is actually by far the stupidest fucking part of the whole thing. In Uncharted is primarily a third-person shooter. When it's time to do exploration or a puzzle, like, yeah, there are some puzzles in Uncharted games, but they are very brain dead. None of them are physics-based, except for the 4th one, I believe. Maybe there are a few. Like few situations that you need to solve with your car, perhaps. I don't know. I haven't played the 4th one. I may at one point. But the funny thing is that, especially when the platforming starts, right? That's when the gameplay in Uncharted really ends, because all of that is just a hallway. It's just a walking simulation. Not in the Tomb Raider games, right? Like, make fun of those games all you want. Like, even I haven't played the 3rd one. I I hope to actually soon, because I just finished the second one. Long ago, played the first one basically on release. Never played the second or the third. Literally played both of them for like 30 minutes at one point. Heine, come back. Don't go across the fucking thing. Come on. Yeah. Welcome back. What was I specifically talking about? Oh, yeah, say what you want, about, like, even the second game was obviously inspired by Uncharted 2. It's ridiculous. Like, the degree to which those games are just aping Uncharted is like parody style. But it's like they are still way more video games than even Uncharted 1, and I'm like, actually, I like Uncharted 1 a lot. I liked Uncharted 1 when it came out, and I still believe it's actually the best one in the series. I haven't played the fourth one, but I hardly doubt that I will particularly enjoy it. By the third one, the series to me was just dead. It was very obvious there was no inspiration at all. And the second one, in my opinion, the second one is just way too bloated. There's just way too much, like, the cover shooter action that just never ends. And there are a few platforming sections, which I already told you what I think of platforming in Uncharted, which felt to me were literally like an hour long. I remember there was one in some kind of like icy, like ancient, like mechanism stuff. And that one I particularly remember felt like just an hour of basically walking, because it's Uncharted platforming. So yeah, no, Uncharted 2, to me, pacing in that game was just all kinds of wrong. Yeah. Anyway, animations, I believe in all three of Tomb Raider games, but definitely in 1 and 2, the Tomb Raider Trauma games. Trauma Raider. Not particularly smooth. Lara, despite the fact that she is rather responsive, it's kind of like the jank is ever present. The camera is very weird. The camera is constantly zooming in and out and changes its FOV. And it's like, for some reason, when you do light platforming, like when you are climbing sideways, for example, right, on like some kind of precipice, you, like, Lara kind of does this like hopping thing. She does it in like jumps, and the camera jumps with her as she does it. Like, it's like the camera, instead of following her smoothly, in certain occasions, for some reason, it's just dead bolted to her, like the center of her model or something. So that if the model jerks around a little bit, the camera jerks around as well. It just makes absolutely no sense to me. Because there's a setting in the menus, there's a setting to reduce camera shake. And well, dude, you have to figure it out. Yep. Good boy. Come on, come on. And you turn it on, and it actually does happen. I immediately notice the difference. It does work, reduce camera shake. But then there are like some other scenarios where the camera shake is just not reduced at all. So, and I do understand, of course, that, there are like, moments where you have to shimmy through something and the camera zooms in, or FOV gets really, really tight. I understand that, okay? I understand that. Although even when that happens, there's rarely the game reaches the point where you legitimately have Lara take up like 90% of the screen. When you play a game like Red Dead or like a Santa Monica studio, game, like a reimagined God of War game, or an Uncharted game, really, since 4. Oh yeah, very good example, obviously, like any other Naughty. I forgot that The Last of Us, had a sequel, so there's more than one. Yeah, the first game didn't have that problem quite as much, but actually the camera was rather fucking close in the first game. So the thing is that those games absolutely love it to be in third person and show you absolutely nothing, what's in front of you, what's around you. No. All the game's interested is just showing you your character. And remember when third person games at one point used to actually go into first person, like when Solid Snake, used to go into a vent, right? The camera used to go into the first person. No. In a modern third person game, the camera goes up the character's arse and stays there for the duration of the sequence. The obsession modern game devs have with this, just, it all needs to look like it was, you're looking like at all these events through the perspective of like a invisible yet handheld, camera operator. And like, guys, just frick off with that. There's not a lot of sequences like that in those Tomb Raider games. But again, depending on if the game feels like you are in a vast open environment, the camera can zoom out really well. And FOV is just like, wow, fantastic, I feel great. Or then, the video game will think, oh, I am indoors a little bit, so now I'm gonna zoom in. And it's like, no, keep the camera, like who cares? Why the hell is there like 20 different like situations, 20 different contexts in which your character can be placed that the game recognizes, and just for different stages of like FOV. It's really annoying. And because FOV is so mutable, is so dynamic in the game, you basically cannot mod it. There is like one mod that addresses this problem, and I actually believe that mod actually worked pretty all right, because I've basically tested the game on 2 computers, one of which was not mine, and that's the game I'm talking about, Rise of Tomb Raider. By the way, Rise of Tomb Raider should have been the game, not Rise of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, just, optimize a little bit your titles. Well, anyway, so on my Windows 10, on Windows 10, it worked, but I couldn't play the game anyway, because despite the game being literally just a couple years younger than my computer, it was obviously updated relatively recently for all the like DLSS, the shitty like zoomer upscaling, where none of the zoomer games actually work at resolution, so they have to be upscaled from like 480p. And there's probably ray tracing somewhere in there. So obviously they somewhat recently patched the game, and I don't know, dude. It does have DX11 mode, DirectX 11, and neither in DirectX 11 nor 12 the game crashes at random intervals between 1 minute and 30 minutes. And once the game finally crashes, by the way, basically until you reboot the computer, the game will almost guaranteed crash almost immediately, on launch, or maybe 1 minute later. I looked around, I couldn't find any fixes that would actually work. Like on my friend's computer, I think, I believe he has Windows 11. Now, the game runs perfectly fine, but the FOV fix just doesn't work. And legitimately, you don't even want to use that FOV fix because it actually will make FOV just psychotic, psychotically huge, wide, when you, what's the word? When you are in the environment where the, like, open environment, that would be usually, when the game feels like FOV needs to be the widest, it will be way too wide. Like already, the game at its widest FOV point actually has a really healthy FOV. I wish it wasn't as dynamic, so that it stayed more on its more open, in its more open state. Other than that, there's not that much I can actually say about the game other than compared to the first one, they way overbloated it with like Ubisoft style collectibles that are just absolutely everywhere. It's ridiculous how much just random junk there is to pick up in this game. The first one I don't remember being quite like that. And yeah, other than that, it's a Eidos Montreal game. You know, it does have quite a bit of player agency. You can play kind of your own way in a lot of situations, and even when the game will all the time force you, like during story missions, all the time it will force you into basic like action shootouts. But even there, you know, depending on how you build your character, you do feel like you are playing the game, that you are in charge of how you do it and what you do, which is something like, you know, compared to other open world games, especially by Ubisoft that aren't like Far Cry, where you literally just, like, ever tried playing smartly or interestingly, like in an Assassin's Creed game? Like until Syndicate, they didn't even really have like real stealth mechanics, I want to say. In 3 and 4, you could finally quote unquote crouch and hide in things, but that was just like pre-designated, pre-placed, pre-designed tall grass. In Syndicate, you could finally crouch, I believe, and potentially, it's like, you know, I know you can hardly see anything right now because it's gotten dark, but here's you, there over there is the enemy. There's like a box between you. If you were to crouch, the enemy would not see you. Oops, Assassin's Creed does not have such a mechanic. Like, doesn't that sound a bit ridiculous? Now, the fun thing is that the Tomb Raider Trauma games, well, other games as well, other Tomb Raider games, doesn't really have a crouch mechanic, but, and the stealth, especially on the hardest difficulty, which is how I played, was a bit wonky. That's a little bit wonky, yeah. But it was still, it felt like you had so much more control over, like, you know, how to approach situations. There were even situations, you're never gonna believe it, you could ghost through them. So imagine, you could either literally have a shootout with a bunch of enemies, or you could ghost through the entire area, or you could you could semi-ghost, or you could entirely stealthily kill effing everyone. Like, you know, yeah, sure. Just having options like that may not necessarily, by every like ImSim fan's definition, would constitute an immersive sim, but again, compare it to even AAA video games of its time, let alone what we currently have, like 10 years later, essentially. Like, that's just so much more player agency. And I know I already shitted all over the Eidos Montreal's Thief game, right? But that game also even had a little bit of player agency, right? You could pick up your own route, you could decide which guards to take down or not. And you might say, well, that's because it's a stealth game. Well, guess what? Most stealth games, or at least good ones, have a little bit of player agency. You could make a stealth game that is completely entirely linear, because many games that aren't stealthy, usually have, sometimes used to, it was all the time the case that games would just have like a stealthy level, and you would play it level, and that level would be like entirely linear and pre-scripted. So you could make technically, a game like that. That is entirely linear and shitty and devoid of all player agency, but most okay ones, they do have at least a little bit of it. And yeah, for all of its the amount of soullessness is not even as fatal as something like Uncharted 3 or 4. I do feel that the developers were obviously prioritizing making the bloated Ubislop, essentially, but it was inspired by, it's a Ubislop done right, and it's not the 2025 Ubislop, it's like 16 Ubislop. So it's a pretty interesting relic of its time. It would have been nice to really have I don't even care about the politics of something like that. If we had a game like that, what would have been the politics of the whole situation, the degree of politics, or whatever. It would have been nice to have a Tomb Raider, either like another reboot series or the Tomb Raider Trauma Raider 4. Dude, it would have been so much better than whatever Eidos Montreal is working on right now. Are they the ones working on Fable? I don't remember. I don't think so. But they've done like those 2 Marvel games that I didn't care about, and I don't think anyone did. And I think they're working on something else right now that's also neither here nor there. It's a shame. It's a shame that we no longer have games like that. I would not necessarily. I could kind of maybe put those games in the same category as like Shadow of Mordor, which is like you play that game and you can clearly tell, oh, this is a Ubisoft inspired game, clearly, but it's one done right though, and yeah. So finally played and finished Rise of Tomb Raider. It's a bit bloated, but it does feel like an experience you actually go through rather than just witness. And it was fun. It was fun. It's a shame we don't have games like that anymore, really. It's a much bigger shame that we don't have by the same developer, games like what's his name? God damn it! Games like Deus Ex. It's a much bigger shame that we don't have those games anymore. But I still kind of we don't even have those kind of AAA slop done right games either, which is a bit sad, because honestly there definitely was a place, I think, in the video game kind of landscape for just kind of sim light type of experience. It's essentially an Uncharted game, but with more level design, right? Because Uncharted, wow, Far Cry game. Think of a Far Cry game, but with actual level design, rather than just having a giant open field. And you could make a little bit of an argument for even it being somewhat of a Metroidvania. Like Metroidvania that essentially plays like Uncharted. I did it again. A Metroidvania that essentially plays like Far Cry. Hey, I'll take it, and I did, and it tasted fine. Let's one day see what the third one is like. Okay, how the hell do I end this? You sure you want to stop streaming? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.